Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, and as you can see, we have a slightly different setup for our spotlight this time around. Yes, we're doing a live servant spotlight on stream right now. Well, right now for us, but in the future or in the past for you guys. If you want to be part of these servant spotlights going forward though, you can hit us up on YouTube. There's a link, or in Twitch, there's a link in the description down below. We do dual stream on YouTube and Twitch, so either or is fine. But you can join us and be part of the live servant spotlights going on next week, which will be for the remaining summer servants. But first, let's take a look at Lady Avalon. Yes, I have to reset my time. Say hi, YouTube and Twitch chat. Let's take a look at Lady Avalon first. She is going to be the first 5-star summer servant that we get in the lineup of banners out of the 3. And she is a 5-star pretender, which is a very unique and interesting class because I believe the only other pretender is Oberon. And that stays true even now in JP, not counting What's-Her-Face on the 4-star side. But it is a very unique class to have. Doesn't matter too much for her purposes because she is going to be a support unit, so class is kind of irrelevant for her. She has a max HP of actually 13,822 and a max attack of 11,556. She does have an NP gain rate. Let me get the number right because I have it written down. But I believe it's 0.53%. Yes. Her NP gain rate is 0.53%. 3 hits on her arts card, 4 hits on her quick. Let me show you her deck as well. It is a mostly arts deck with triple arts. And 4 hits on her buster and 5 hits on her extra. And she has a star generating rate of 19.8%. So she is going to generate quite a bit of NP gain. Not too shabby. Mostly from the triple arts here and her arts noble Phantasm, and having an average NP gain rate helps. She also has a lot of hits across her cards, but her star generating is not quite as good because of only that one quick card that she has. She does have interesting skills though, so this is where it gets a bit spicy. You're going to notice a similarity between her and a few other servants. She's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different art supports. Her first skill is Light Upon That Hand, rank B, which is actually going to buff an ally's arts card effectiveness for 3 turns, between 30 and 50%. It's also going to increase their max HP for 3 turns, between 2,000 and 3,000, and it increases their crit damage for 1 turn, between 50 and 100%, which is fucking massive, 100% crit damage boost. And it does have a 6-turn cooldown. Her second skill, which is the charisma-like skill there, is Blooming Flowers of Summer Nights, rank D, which is a charisma, 20% attack buff for the party for 3 turns. It also charges the party's NP gauge by 20%, so very Waver-like there. And it overcharges the party's NP by 1 stage, 1 time, for 3 turns as well. So right off the bat, first 2 skills are basically Fox Wedding, Tamamo, and Waver's Charisma. And then her last skill is the Invincibility, Succubus's Ridge, rank EX, which is a party-wide invincibility for 1 turn, but it also reduces the enemy's NP gauge by 1 time at the end of the turn. We'll get back to that because it's a bit complicated. And it charges her own NP gauge depending on the amount of enemies on screen, anywhere between 10 to 20% per enemy, depending on her level, or her skill level, and that has an 8-turn cooldown. So, right off the bat, that's basically Merlin's skill, regular Merlin, but with the little added effect of the NP drain and the NP charge. The NP charge for her can be really strong. It's a strong battery for her. The drain is interesting because you actually want to time it so that it occurs before the enemy is getting ready to Noble Phantasm charge. So when they're at max charge bar and you use the skill, they'll still NP that turn. It drains the turn after. So you basically want to use it the turn before they NP, if that makes sense. It's a very delayed reaction. So it's a very interesting skill. For her passives, she has a few. It's like 4, I believe. 5 passives. She's fucking loaded. She does have territory creation, but it's rank D, so only a 4% increase to her arts card effectiveness. Item construction rank A, it's 11% buff to her debuff success rate. Mixed blood rank EX, which charges her own NP gauge by 5% every turn. High speed divination, right here, which means she starts the battle with 20% NP charge, an excellent passive to pair with mana loading. And then she has independent manifestation rank A, which increases her crit damage by 10%, her instant kill resist by 10%, and her mental debuff resist by 10%, which is things like charm, sleep, terror, etc. And then, of course, finally, she has her NP, which is basically Merlin's Noble Phantasm. It increases the party's HP, max HP for 3 turns between 3,000 and 5,000, and it charges the party's NP gauge every turn for 3 turns between 5 to 10%, both depending on level. And then she grants crit stars every turn for 5 turns, between 5 and 25 stars per turn, depending on overcharge level. So there's a lot to talk about here. Also, yeah, her Ascension mats are unique because she's an Avenger or a Pretender. For her level Ascension, she's going to need 10 Seashells, 10 Phoenix Plumes, 10 Homunculus Babies, 10 Lanugos, 10 Aurora Steel, 10 Fruit of Longevity, 10 Scales of Fantasy, and 10 Genesis Eggs. And then for each skill, she's going to need 10 Yggdrasil Seeds, 10 Phoenix Plumes, 12 Lanugos, 12 Spirit Roots, 12 Shells, 15 Fruit of Longevity, 15 Scales of Fantasies, and 15 Genesis Eggs per skill. So horrific skill mat requirements for her. She's not fun to level up at all. She's going to be a huge drain on your resources. She is a great Pretender, yes. So that's her stats. How does she perform in practice? Well, I have mixed feelings on Lady Avalon here, just to show off her Ascension as well, for those of you who want to see what that looks like. Personally, I prefer the swimsuit, but here's the thing. If you notice, like I said, she's basically a combination of... She's shite. Well, listen, strong words, not from me. She's a combination of 3 different servants. She's a combination of Tamamo, Waver / Rhaenys, and Merlin, regular Merlin. She's a pure art support, and she does do her role well. She's basically there to stall out people, stall out the enemy because she has an NP drain and an invincibility. She can overheal the party to like increase their max HP. A lot of really good stall potential there. Her NP is really strong as well for just as an NP battery. It can give constant NP charge. Although at NP 1, it's only a 2% per level charge. So it's not really the best. The crit stars are nice, but again, her crit buff only is 100%, but it only lasts 1 turn. She's not the best crit support. She's a really good stall servant and general arts buffer because of that Fox Wedding buff that she has on her first skill, 50% arts up. And then her charisma, which is another 20%, those stack multiplicatively. It's basically the same as if you had Waver and Tamamo, but in 1 servant. So she does give a really good damage boost to an art servant. The drawback for her is she doesn't give as much upfront NP charge. The thing that makes Waver great is not his charisma. It's the fact that everything he does gives NP charge. So he can give 50% NP charge. She can't. She doesn't have as much up. She only gives 20% battery. She can give a lot of battery to herself because of her invincibility and her passives and mana loading. So she can be a great NP battery for herself, and she can NP all over the place constantly. But that doesn't really help your DPS because there's no attack buffs in her. If her NP gave an attack buff, she would be fucking loaded. But because it doesn't, and it just heals and gives a minor NP charge, it's not really the best thing to spam. Cries in free-to-play. Yeah, if there's more than 2 enemies on the field or 3 enemies on the field, she'll get a massive NP charge. There's basically at 3 enemies, it's a 60% NP charge for her. Plus, she starts with 20% NP charge. Plus, she can get mana loading. If there's 3 enemies on the field, she basically gets a 100% NP charge. So she can go from 0 to 100. So that's really strong for her. So you get a free NP right off the bat. But again, not having that 50% charge threshold like Waver does or Rhaenys does hurts her a lot. And the thing that makes Tamamo great is the cooldown reduction, which she doesn't have. Also, Tamamo's NP gives like 25% NP charge compared to Merlin or Lady Avalon's 2%. So there are some situations where you would want Lady Avalon's like consistent passive charging if it's like a really long fight. She makes a really good secondary support. Like if you have a Castoria there or a Waver there, she can be there further buffing the DPS and healing. But you usually want someone who's more dedicated. You want a Media. If I need a healer, I would just take Media Lily or Tamamo. I'm trying to not make it sound like Tamamo's better, but because she's not. I do think Lady Avalon's better than Tamamo, but she's limited. She's squeezed really between 2 excellent meta supports and a meta DPS and arc, so it's really hard to justify rolling for her with that perspective. She's one of those servants who does a lot, but not enough to really justify using her over other supports. She doesn't really have a lane. She's not a full NP battery like Castoria or Waver or Rhaenys, and she does give good individual buffs like for damage, but so do Castoria, Rhaenys, and Waver. Yeah, Merlily. Her appeal is her challenge quest support in full art teams. Yes, that's basically what she's there for. She's there to be a secondary support in full challenge quest teams. So, like, for example, stalling out teams with Castoria and her work really well. Or you can even use Mosh in her if you want to go super defensive. She works really well with Mosh. She works really well with Castoria. She works really well with Tamamo. She's more of a defensive support, is what I'm trying to get at. And primarily, that's not as useful in FGO, outside of really niche instances. Zufu as well does a lot of that, yeah. If you are going to use her, though, I would heavily suggest having Castoria. Her and Castoria together is an excellent setup for defensive unit or defensive challenge quests, because she basically offers everything that Castoria doesn't. She has the healing, the NP drain, which can be really strong. She offers an alternative party-wide invincibility in case your Castoria's, NP's not up at the same time as hers. So she's really good with Castoria. As far as her skill leveling, though, you'd want to, honestly, I would say go for invincibility first, only because if I remember correctly, that 20%, actually, you know what? Is that 20% on her? Let me just double check. If that's 20% on her charisma is scales with her level, it doesn't. All right, so yeah, you want to go invincibility first, just so that she can NP on turn 1 faster. Then go for the arts buff here, and then go for the charisma. The charisma's NP charge does not scale with level, so it's a flat 20% even at level 1. So it's not really worth rushing to level that. The only thing that scales on her charisma is the charisma itself, the attack buff. So that's your lowest priority. And of course, you want to pick up mana loading as well for the extra 20%, which stacks perfectly with her passive. Imagine not leveling all skills at the same time. Listen, normally I would say level all skills at the same time, but given that Merlin, or now you guys are making me call her Merlina, because I keep seeing people spam it in chat. Lady Avalon's skills are so ridiculously expensive. Her skill order actually does matter. I would definitely say go with the invincibility, then the arts buff, then the charisma. But there you go. Do I recommend rolling for her? Listen, if she were at any other summer event, I would, because she is a really good defensive support. She's an excellent defensive support. That's her strength. She's really good at stall teams. She's really good as a healer. She gives really good buffs to your DPS. She's probably the best secondary support you can have. If you're considering Castoria like a primary support, that's part of every arts team, she's probably runner-up. She's like the second best art support you can have on that team. However, she's in a... Right after her, we have Ibuki Summer, who's arguably the best art servant in the game. And then we also have Summer Scotty, who like is the best quick support in the game, and also one of the best quick DPSs in the game. And then right before her, currently on the banner right now, we have Arc, who's also the best buster DPS in the game right now. So will I say roll for her? If you're brand new to the game, don't roll for her. If you're not at an end game yet, like you're like maybe only a couple months into the game and you're like just hitting the lost belts or whatever, don't roll for her. Save for Ibuki or Scotty, depending on what your team looks like. If you're free to play, don't roll for her. Save for Ibuki or Scotty, depending on what your roster looks like. If you're a Dolphin and you spend a little here and there, don't roll for her. Save for Ibuki and Scotty. If you are a whale and she is your waifu, roll for her. Just, for most people, she's not going to be worth rolling for right now. Scotty and Ibuki are going to be your highest priority. And even Arc is a priority over her. And I will say next year she does get a rerun. So she is going to be on Wait Up Again next year. If next year comes around and you're watching this video and it's 2025, hey, and you already have Summer Ibuki or Summer Scotty, and you don't want the other or whatever, and you have quartz to spend, then roll for her. But she's very much a luxury servant. She's just there as a secondary support in really niche situations like challenge quests that require defensive utility, yada yada yada. You know, she's not going to make or break your account. Yes, she's very good in very niche challenge quests where you want to stall out the enemy and have some kind of like NP battery going. But for most cases, you're better off just focusing on saving your quartz and rolling for Ibuki or Scotty. So overall, I am still going to give her an A+. Which sounds weird, I know, and some people will fight me because they think it should be an S. I just think that for as much utility as she offers, she's still kind of niche, and there are better supports out there. To me, she's a slightly better Tamamo. She's like a Tamamo fused with a waiver, but both of those servants are like easier to obtain because they're in the regular gacha pool and they can be obtained with your free 5-star ticket if we ever get another one. So she's a low priority top tier servant.